Welcome to Texas. We're looking at Giant and how well the 1952 book transferred to the screen in 1956. This book and movie diverge on several points. We'll look at 5 characters and what they reveal. We'll even tell you who the title character is. We'll also talk about the author. Stay for the bonus section on why the movie was a success at the time and why it has failed ever since. Leslie Linton, who soon becomes Mrs. Benedict, is the main character in the book. She is a Virginian and part of the poor of the rich. Her father is a well-known doctor who has refused prestige assignments to do his work that he thinks is important. Their house is run down, but they have a horse that Bick Benedict comes to buy, which starts their courtship. The book is from her perspective. She drives it by asking too many questions about inequality in Texas and other issues. The book is a throwback to the social consciousness works of the 1930s. She is resented as an outsider in spite of her high social position. Local insularity is projected onto her continually, and people call her a Yankee, an epithet that would be new to someone from the seat of the old Confederacy. She is always very socially aware and never calls the Texans on their massive mistake. She reveals the title of the book while visiting the Alamo, looking at the remnants of the heroic last stand while questioning their rights to be there in the first place. She thinks that the Alamo is, quote, a sort of shrine to the arrogant, swaggering giant, Texas, end quote. As the book ends, Leslie is questioning herself about having gone along with the old order for too long. In the movie, Leslie's house is perfect. It is a grand mansion, and it is very neat. Leslie asks questions, but not nearly as many as she did in the book. Elizabeth Taylor got top billing, but Leslie is not the main character in the movie. She never reveals the title in the movie, and we're less guessing as to what might be the source. She is dialed down in her marriage, and the road to agreeing to disagree is much smoother. Also, there is very little in the movie that shows Texas in a bad light. Much of it could have been used to promote tourism there. Rock Hudson was well cast as Bick Benedict in the movie. We see who he is when he tells his son, "I am a fair man." He brawls at times, but is always fighting on the right side. He even fights against a segregated diner when his son's new family is shown the door. Bick Benedict in the movie has his issues, but he always adapts. It is unlikely that Rock Hudson could have played Bick Benedict as he was written in the book. He is not a fair man. On the contrary, he conspires to rig elections. He and other property owners close roads to prevent certain people from voting. He is filled with resentments because although he is successful, life is passing him by. Events around this character happen differently. In both instances, Bick wants to remain a cattleman. In the book, he is in charge of his ranch, but the property is owned by the extended family and he only has one vote. The others come for a meeting and force the issue. In the movie, the transition from cattle to oil happens with a simple conversation. In both instances, Bick's real name is Jordan. He is junior in the movie and the third in the book. In the book, he and other Texans pronounced it Jordan. In the movie, there is no variation. He might be the title character in the movie. He is big in stature, he has a big ranch, and as time goes on, he's big in oil. Jett Rink is similar in both the book and the movie. He is a character who isn't there very much, but the others spend a lot of time reacting to him and talking about him. Jett Rink in the book is much more violent and erratic than the character we see on the screen. In the book, he is also not such a weasel. In the book, Uncle Bolly is Leslie's anchor in Texas. He is an older man who never married. They bond right away, and he explains Texas life to her, filling in the gaps in her astute observations. The biggest bombshell he drops is that among the elites, the Texas accent is fake. They always go to school in the northeastern US, and they frequently spend time in Europe, where he had studied classical piano. He explains, "Sometimes we forget to talk Texas." He recounts seeing Anna Held in New York, a visiting French entertainer who lived from 1872 to 1918. She spoke English well, but put on a thick French accent in public to maintain her brand. In the movie, Uncle Bolly is a talking extra who plays keyboard instruments once in a while. In both the book and the movie, Bick's sister, Luce, is a domineering figure who runs the ranch. She knows everything and has all the skills for riding and roping and so on. She opposes her new sister-in-law, remarking with disdain that she doesn't even speak Spanish. The book and movie diverge with the pronunciation of her name. In the movie, L-U-Z is pronounced Luz. This seems impossible. Both Bick and his sister speak Spanish, and they would know that Luz is just wrong. In the US, up to about 1950, it was not uncommon for non-Hispanic women to have Spanish names. One of the more famous ones is here, in Giant, Mercedes McCambridge. Another famous example of this is Dolores Hope, the wife of Bob Hope. Their pronunciation wasn't always the same from one language to the other, but Luz is way beyond the pale. Edna Ferber's book is a drawing room drama set in Texas. Near the middle of the book, Leslie tells Uncle Bolly, "There's really more protocol in Texas than there is in Washington, or at the court of St. James for that matter." Edna Ferber's uncomfortable observations pour out continually. The most jarring was her comment about all of the historic Spanish and Mexican fiestas where no one of Spanish or Mexican descent was allowed to attend. Her timeline runs from about 1925 to 1950. In her book, we see the struggling young pilots who had flown in World War II working as airborne chauffeurs for the rich. She also saw the coming of air conditioning and how people reacted to it as it began to be popularized. She wrote many books and plays and was in the movie industry very early on. She wrote the original novel Showboat. She was also a writing partner for George S. Kaufman, with whom she wrote Dinner at 8, along with many others. Edna Ferber was famous during most of her life, but she is currently forgotten and needs to be read again. You've made it to the bonus section. At the time, the movie succeeded because so many people had read the book. Also, color and widescreen were still novelties. The movie has failed since then for 4 reasons. First, it was ruined by the costumes. As in the book, much of the action takes place in the 1920s and 1930s. No one looks like someone you might have seen in a silent movie. None of them look like they're from the 1930s. Most people dress in contemporary clothes, but ride around in old cars for some reason. James Dean and Rock Hudson stand out for their big 50s hair. The movie's second failure is too many characters. Usually, adaptations feature fewer of them. This one features nearly everyone from the book, but their presence is not explained. The main job of the people working with Bick is nodding in agreement and filling his ashtrays. If you haven't read the book, you're lost. The third failure is letting the cinematographer edit. Every scene is a series of lush visuals that go on for too long. A better use of the excess length would have been to explain what all of the extra characters were doing there. The fourth failure of Giant, which persists to this day, is marketing. James Dean is on most of the available posters. It looks like he was the star, but his screen time mirrors the few appearances of Jett Rink in the book. Consequently, fans see Giant expecting a James Dean movie, and they're disappointed to find him in a supporting role. If James Dean had not died, Rock Hudson would have been on every poster. Hudson was still a new star in 1956, and he was heavily promoted. Have you read the book and seen the movie? What have you noticed?